Taylor Swift just unleashed hell on Blake Lively right in the middle of the courtroom. Blake's face turned ghost white as Brian Freeman dropped evidence straight from Taylor's father.
Justin's lawyer, Brian Freeman, came out and said he had sources that basically showed him and told him that, Blake Lively's lawyer had contacted Taylor's lawyer. Not even Blake had contacted Taylor, but the lawyers had contacted each other.
With a cold smirk, Taylor stared Blake down, silently mouthing the message, "I'm not your dragon puppy. Not today, not ever."
You reap what you sow. That's correct. And now it is indeed a season of harvest for her.
You know that moment when someone stays quiet for so long and then suddenly drops a legal bomb that makes the courtroom physically flinch? Yeah, that was Taylor Swift. After months of staying completely silent, letting Blake Lively run her mouth in headlines and hide behind fake PR smiles, Taylor finally snapped. But did she scream? No. Did she go on a podcast rant? Nope. She walked into that courtroom, metaphorically of course, and let her lawyers detonate Blake's entire defense with surgical precision. It was May 2025, and what was supposed to be just another hearing turned into a historical takedown.
Taylor was obviously upset when she found out she was called one of Blake's dragons, and she had kind of, in this lawsuit of It Ends With Us.
Taylor's legal team didn't come to play. They came with receipts, affidavits, and a whole decade's worth of dirt that exposed Blake as the manipulative PR goblin she is. Judge Lehman? He was done. Man slammed his gavel like he was trying to break the sound barrier.
He said counsel is advised that future misuse of the court's docket may be met with sanctions.
The second Taylor's side revealed the 10-year blackmail timeline. It was over. Not a debate, not an allegation, a strategy exposed. Blake's golden girl mask torn off and shredded in front of everyone. The courtroom wasn't ready, but neither was Blake. And I mean, honestly, how do you recover from having your entire career framed as one long scam?
Blake Lively's lawyer had contacted Taylor's lawyer. Not even Blake had contacted Taylor, but the lawyers had contacted each other and said, "We really want you to put out a statement of support as to why Blake was not with you at the Super Bowl."
And let's talk about that scam for a second. Because what even was that 10-year ultimatum Blake thought would work? Her team reportedly contacted Taylor's lawyers and said, "Hey, if you don't publicly support Blake and explain why she ditched you at the Super Bowl, we'll just leak all your private texts from the last decade." That's not just blackmail. That's cartoon villain behavior. Who does that to a friend? Imagine thinking that Taylor freaking Swift, the woman who's been stalked, attacked, and sued for breathing too confidently, is going to cave because you threatened to air old texts about brunch plans and ex-boyfriends. Delusion isn't a legal defense, but apparently Blake thought it was.
And I think Taylor was like, "Oh, what? That's a record scratch on any friendship."
So on February 14th, 2025, while normal people were exchanging chocolates and flowers, Taylor's team was filing an affidavit that dropped like a nuke in that courtroom. Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Freeman, signed it under penalty of perjury. Not under PR fluff, not under influencer captions, perjury. Meaning if he's lying, he goes down. And guess what? He wasn't. He detailed the threat, laid out the timeline, and legally labeled Blake's antics for what they were: emotional terrorism. I mean, those were the words from someone in Taylor's camp. Emotional terrorism. And honestly, that's being generous.
And how can this information get out there? The only way that could happen was if Brian Freeman subpoenaed Taylor Swift and she would fight the subpoena, and then voila, all this information can come out.
Judge Lehman wasn't amused. He didn't just side-eye Blake's team. He practically burned them alive with his words. He reportedly called the whole thing a desperate PR weapon. And that's the perfect phrase, isn't it? Blake didn't come to court to clear her name. She came to spin a narrative. Too bad for her, the only thing she spun was her reputation into the gutter.
Blake Lively being rather unpleasant instead of being America's golden girl. And now It's this massive legal fight that is going to absolutely drain their resources and completely damage their reputations.
Now, let's get into the messiest part. The message deletion scandal. Because if blackmail wasn't enough, Blake allegedly went one step further. Sources confirmed she actually asked Taylor to delete their entire message history last year. Not archive it, not ignore it, delete it. Like no one was going to notice that Blake suddenly didn't have a single text with Taylor from the past decade? Girl, please. It's 2025. You can't even delete a bad tweet without someone screenshotting it within 5 seconds. What made her think she could erase 10 years of messages and walk away like nothing happened?
It's not just Taylor. Gigi Hadid also not talking to Blake, and they were friends. I've seen them together.
The judge saw right through it. He dismissed Blake's frantic response letter like it was some kind of tabloid pitch, calling it spurious and manipulative, and the timing, super sketchy. She just happened to want all the messages deleted right when subpoenas started flying around like confetti? How convenient. Almost like someone was trying to clean up a crime scene before the cops showed up. And let's talk about how spectacularly her PR team flopped after that. Within 24 hours, they released not one, not two, but 3 separate denials. You know someone's guilty when their press team is working overtime like they're auditioning for The Apprentice, Crisis Edition. But the public wasn't having it. People weren't stupid. They saw what was going on. Blake's denials looked less like a defense and more like a panicked toddler trying to convince the teacher she didn't eat the glue, while covered in glue.
All of the people out there, creators, all the people that have been digging into this, all the mommy sleuths that found things, have all of this together has created this moment when we starting to really see the truth there of what has happened.
Meanwhile, Taylor's lawyers were just chilling. They didn't even have to respond. Blake was digging her own grave, and honestly, they were probably just watching it happen like the rest of us. Popcorn in hand. Taylor didn't have to scream to be heard. She let the facts speak, and boy did they scream. The contrast couldn't be more delicious. On one hand, you had Blake collapsing under her own mess, clinging to her fake feminist image while the court peeled back the layers. On the other, you had Taylor, cool and composed, letting the law do the roasting. And let's not forget how absolutely bonkers it is that Blake thought she could flip the narrative with text messages. As if everyone in Hollywood doesn't already know the rules. You never threaten someone more powerful than you unless your house is bulletproof. Blake thought she was being clever. She thought Taylor would back down, but instead, she got destroyed by a woman who literally turned betrayal into Billboard hits. What did she think was going to happen? All this just proves what we've suspected for a long time. Blake Lively isn't the clever, quirky fashion icon she tries to play on Instagram. She's a strategic manipulator who thought she could bully her way out of a legal war she started. And guess what? She lost. In front of a judge. In front of the media. And most importantly, in front of the very public she once fooled. And you know what the worst part is for Blake? It's not even the legal smackdown. It's that Taylor Swift didn't even have to show up to beat her. No tweets, no interviews. Just cold, brutal legal facts. That's how badly Blake played herself. And if this is just the beginning, oh honey, the next round's going to be brutal. So let's talk about the voicemail that quite literally detonated whatever was left of Blake Lively's courtroom credibility. February 14th, 2025. Valentine's Day. While the rest of us were exchanging heart emojis and chocolate, Taylor Swift's legal team was serving fire. Brian Freeman, Baldoni's legal pit bull in a tailored suit, received a voicemail from someone deep inside Taylor's camp. And no, it wasn't a cute Happy Valentine's message. It was a legal nuke.
As we know now, he knew this already in February, so he was sitting on this information, and he was probably thinking of a way that he could get it out to the public.
This voicemail confirmed what everyone suspected, but no one had the guts to say out loud. Blake's team absolutely tried to strong-arm Taylor. Not a maybe, not a rumor. It was detailed, specific, and supported by legal exhibits that were signed, sealed, and submitted under oath. If Blake thought she could PR spin her way out of this, she forgot that voicemails don't lie. Especially not when they're handed over in court with a neat little bow and a perjury clause attached. And just wait till you hear the name that got dragged right into the mess. Michael Gull. Yeah, Blake's own lawyer allegedly made the call to Taylor's legal team at Venal Law Firm. This wasn't some vague he said, she said drama. The voicemail straight up accused Goddell of delivering the infamous threat. Taylor had to publicly support Blake, or those 10 years of messages were getting dropped like a mixtape. Imagine having your legal team so messy, they're the ones making the threats. Now, of course, Blake's camp did what Blake's camp always does: deny, distract, and deflect. They immediately said the voicemail was taken out of context. Of course it was. That's PR code for, we got caught, but we're going to pretend the rest of the world is dumb enough to believe otherwise. But here's the thing. It didn't matter. Because by the time they tried to stuff the scandal back in the bottle, Freeman's affidavit was already circulating online like wildfire. You could refresh Twitter and see it being quoted by every outlet with a pulse. And the best part? Valentine's Day. The timing made the betrayal feel like some twisted Shakespearean drama. Personal, theatrical, and absolutely PR catastrophic. At this point, you'd think Blake might have gotten the message. But nope. While she was out there weaponizing gossip and petty threats like she was auditioning for a Mean Girls reboot, Taylor was playing chess. Cold, calculated, legally lethal. Taylor didn't need to run to the tabloids or drop cryptic tweets. She let her lawyers do all the talking. And when I say talking, I mean annihilating. She never posted. She never commented. She never went on record. While Blake was throwing tantrums in press releases, Taylor's team was moving in silence, dismantling her from the inside out with a paper trail of facts and signed legal statements. No noise, just precision. Her whole strategy has now been dubbed the Swift Maneuver by legal commentators. And honestly, it's the most iconic move in celebrity legal history. Let your enemies shout themselves hoarse while you lay out your trap in silence, and then snap it shut at just the right moment. This wasn't just smart, it was devastating. The public could literally see the contrast. One woman unraveling like a bargain bin scarf in front of every judge, journalist, and follower she ever had. And another sitting back, sipping tea, while her legal team flipped the entire narrative like a pancake. No wonder even courtroom reporters were calling it a masterclass in silent warfare. If this was a movie, it'd be called How to Destroy a Frenemy Without Saying a Word. And then came the judge. Judge Lehman has officially had enough. He didn't just rule on motions. The man basically gave a TED Talk on how not to turn a courtroom into a Bravo reunion. Sure, he tossed Freeman's affidavit out technically because it didn't fall under his jurisdiction, but let's not pretend that means he was siding with Blake. If anything, his disgust with her team was louder than Blake's publicist during crisis hour. He looked right at her legal squad and reportedly said, "This is a courtroom, not a red carpet." Can we talk about how embarrassing that is? Imagine standing in front of a federal judge and getting called out for acting like you're at the Met Gala. That's not just a burn, that's a cremation. He also warned Blake's side about potential sanctions for abusing the court system and slammed her PR-fueled letters as Hollywood stunts masquerading as legal claims. Translation: nice try, but no one here is buying the influencer act. Now Blake might want to parade around like she's being unfairly attacked, but here's the truth. The court didn't even believe she was innocent. They just didn't want the case to turn into a Netflix drama. But the damage was done. Public perception? Gone. Media sympathy? Dead on arrival. The judge may have dismissed the affidavit from a legal technicality, but in the court of public opinion, Blake Lively just lost the entire war. And let's be real. It's not because Taylor said anything publicly. She didn't have to. She simply let her evidence speak. Blake's downfall wasn't orchestrated by a PR team or a music video. It was her own arrogance. She thought she could manipulate a court case the same way she manipulates her Instagram captions, full of fake empowerment quotes and pastel-toned distractions. But the courtroom doesn't care about aesthetics. It cares about truth. And truth, in this case, destroyed her. Even worse, this entire strategy blew up so badly, it exposed just how badly Blake misunderstands the difference between celebrity gossip and actual law. This isn't a PR scandal that can be buried under a well-filtered apology. This is a legal avalanche, and she's smack in the middle of it, wearing nothing but red carpet delusions and recycled excuses. So here's where we're at. Taylor Swift is winning by saying nothing. Her legal team is a fortress. Her reputation is bulletproof. And Blake Lively, she's just trying to crawl out from under the wreckage of her own stupidity, hoping the public forgets that she tried to blackmail, coerce, and manipulate one of the most powerful women on the planet, and failed so badly, even the judge had to tell her to cut the red carpet antics and grow up. Let's get into the part nobody wants to say out loud, but we all know is true. Ryan Reynolds isn't just standing on the sidelines with a sad face and a bag of popcorn. No. While Blake was busy combusting in court like a malfunctioning toaster, Ryan was allegedly out here making phone calls, whispering sweet nothings to media execs, and trying to sweep this entire mess under Hollywood's dirtiest rug.
How is that not Deadpool punching down Mahershala Ali? How?
According to several reports, Mr. I'm just a funny Canadian guy was working the phones like a stressed-out publicist on Oscar night. Sources say he tried to suppress every single piece of negative press that dared mention his wife's courtroom spiral. Because of course, if you can't win in court, just call up a few old industry buddies and try to kill the narrative. Classic Reynolds move. Hide behind humor, play the nice guy, and manipulate everything behind the scenes. Critics are now calling him Deadpool off-screen 2. Not because he's funny, but because he punches down, mocks the vulnerable, and treats power like a toy. And get this, he wasn't just calling in favors. Some insiders say Ryan coordinated legal strategy meetings. Meetings, as in full-on war rooms to plot how they were going to protect Blake's image and silence Taylor's side. Allegedly, he even went so far as to threaten to blacklist any outlets that dared support Baldoni or Taylor. Can you imagine? You're an editor trying to run a story, and suddenly you get a call from Team Reynolds telling you your future access to Marvel press junkets might depend on whether you back off? That's not PR, that's intimidation in a tux.
Everybody, somehow after these experiences, Ryan does do his nice Canadian thing, but even just like in the movies themselves, you lie, you do punch down.
And yet, even that flopped. The judge, Bob, the actual judge in the case, called Ryan out for what he described as arrogant exploitation of Hollywood power. I mean, ouch. That is not a throwaway line. That is a straight-up legal roast. You know things are bad when a judge stops judging and starts dragging. Ryan tried to act like he had nothing to do with it, just a concerned husband in the background. But that act wore thin real fast. Turns out when the spotlight shifts from charming superhero to secret schemer, people stop laughing. Now his image is circling the drain. Fast. Major outlets like People and TMZ, yes, the same ones that used to worship him and Blake like they were Hollywood royalty, are turning on them both. Headlines went from Hollywood's cutest couple to PR panic at the lively Reynolds mansion in less than a week. And when TMZ starts calling you out, you're done. That's the law of Hollywood. And while Ryan was fumbling behind the scenes, the rest of Hollywood was watching and choosing seeds. They didn't choose Blake. Gigi Hadid, gone. Selena Gomez, unfollowed. Martha Hunt, radio silent. The very people who used to pop up in Blake's comment section with hearts and emojis are now scrubbing her from their timelines like she's a canceled brand deal. It's not just cold, it's glacial. Because this isn't just about loyalty, it's about self-preservation. Nobody wants to be seen supporting the woman who tried to blackmail Taylor Swift and then got roasted by a judge. The celeb crowd is now very clearly Team Taylor. And honestly, can you blame them? Who wants to be associated with someone whose legal strategy involved deleting messages and threatening to leak 10 years' worth of receipts? These are high-profile women who've worked hard to build trust and credibility. Not exactly the kind of people who are going to risk their own reputation to defend a woman unraveling faster than her own career. Even the media isn't pretending anymore. Outlets that once kissed Blake's heels are now calling her behavior unforgivable and toxic. ET Canada ran an entire segment breaking down how Blake went from beloved to blacklisted. And here's the kicker. A documentary is already in the works. Yes, a whole documentary titled The Promise. It's going to dig into every shady text, every sketchy legal maneuver, every PR stunt that Blake's team pulled. And they're not stopping at her. Ryan's shady involvement? Also front and center. This is turning into the biggest fall from grace since Amber Heard, but with way more strategy and far less screaming. Insiders say the documentary is going to feature interviews from former friends, legal experts, and probably a few people from Taylor's team who are ready to spill every last drop of tea. And honestly, I hope they serve it boiling hot, because the public deserves to know how deep this manipulation went, and how many people Blake tried to drag down with her when her empire started crumbling. Now, let's talk about what this has done to Blake. Her once polished, sparkling, lifestyle magazine glamour goddess image, gone. Vaporized. Blake Lively has gone from America's effortlessly cool sweetheart to a full-blown cautionary tale in less than a month. She thought she was untouchable. She thought if she posted a few photos in pastel cardigans and made vague feminist statements about supporting women, people would forget that she tried to coerce and silence another woman behind the scenes. But Taylor Swift came, saw, and demolished, without raising her voice, without posting a single story, without blinking. And if you thought that was wild, just wait, because this storm is far from over. Hit subscribe for every Savage update,